Peace, everybody. Um, peace, Papa Raj Cushion. Peace, Soft the Hava, because I already see y'all know what I'm talking about. So, welcome to Show and Prove. Um, and in today's segment of the Destruction of Black Civilization series, we are dealing with the Black Constitution. It says that in the title. Um, but I I sort of changed that to let got different in the slides and called it Ancient Constitution of Africa because I don't know. At the time I didn't know what to call it. He was like, how do I don't want to use black, but and then it hit me. Sometimes it happens like that. It's like, oh, okay, there we go. So peace, Leon. Shalom. you know. So that's what we are doing this strong in this segment. Last strong, we did Egypt or Kemet as as a satellite, you know, which was good and interesting, and you makes you look at um that place totally different if if you were there last strong. Makes you look at it and it's fun to revisit it because everybody has their own opinions of Kemet and things like that, and it's fun to, at least for me, fun to research and go back to my basics because Kemet was my base. was really my basics. That's what got me into history and whatnot. So yeah. So, but this go round, we are dealing with, ancient constitutional Africa in a sense. So shalom everybody. Shalom. Abba Yada Ram. Shalom, little fire starter, aka Ebony. What's up, little fire starter? But peace, Aki Darian. So that's what we on. So that's what we gonna talk about. That's basically, how we gonna get down tonight, as as a Choti Yafe would say, tonight, So, all right, let's just get into it. All right. But before we do all that, we have to define certain things. So, first definition is state. The definition of state is the mode or condition of being, a condition or stage in the physical being of something, a social position, a body of persons constituting a special class in a society, a political organization, body of people usually occupying a definite territory, the opposition of concerns of the government of a country, one of the constituent units of a nation having a federal government, and the territory of a state. So that's definition of state, since we're using this. And then democracy. I know a lot of us think we probably know this one. So let's go over the definition for those that don't know. A government in which the supreme power is vested in the people and exercised by them directly or indirectly through a system of representation, usually involving periodically held free elections. A political unit that has a democratic government, the principles and policies of the Democratic Party in the U.S., the common people, especially when constituting the source of political authority, the absence of hereditary and arbitrary class distinctions or privileges. You so when I first came out with this, I thought I would start out with some schoolhouse rock. Because for me, when I had to take civics and learn about democracy and all of that, I had to watch Schoolhouse Rock because I went around when them cartoons came around. But I had to watch that and watch we the people in order to form a more perfect union. The preamble, and then you got no more kings, and whatnot. Learn that's really how I aced civics. Because if you didn't pass civics, you couldn't go on to the next grade. So I had to really pass that one, but I aced it, But that helped me out. So but when we're talking this, and we usually are given the classic Eurocentric spiel that Greece created democracy and Western civilization, and that's how we get what we have today. But when you're us, and you're on this journey, you realize, and you read because you got to read, um, not say that you just do research on Google or something, but you actually have to do research, um, our stories about democracy is a little bit different, So that's what we're on today. I'm talking about. So no kings and queens. No kings. Yes, little 5 star. I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And I'm sitting here on Capitol. It's funny. Another reason why I learned these dang songs is because my dang my my family, my aunts and uncles, around, they gather around, liquor is involved, and they making jokes, and then they reliving their childhood, see that dang song. I'm just a bill. Laughing laughing and just having fun, Lolly, get your adverbs in. And you can go in the kitchen, but I say, close to the opening, just listen at them just say they. Oh man, but yeah. So that's another reason how I learned them dang songs. But but our story is a little bit different. And like I say, man, that's what we on today, and we're still doing destruction of Black civilization, but we are on the chapter where he goes into, African constitutions and whatnot. So that's what we're on now. Among the Blacks, democratic institutions evolved and functioned in the social, economic, and political system Western writers called stateless societies or societies without chiefs. When these societies were referred to as primitive democracies, the writers are in fact doing the very opposite of what they intended. Far from being just a descriptive term for backwards people, primitive also means the first, the beginners, you know. So that's in destruction of Black civilization. But it teaches you how to look at that word being called primitive. You know what I'm talking about? In the sense that, we've always heard that primitive was bad and primitive was, uh, you know, being, like Stone Age. You never went past Stone Age. You're still living in mud huts and things like that, living in the jungle. Primitive, but you never look at it meaning the first or the beginners. Which makes a lot more sense. Who else they call, primitives besides us Native Americans? They call them primitives. And then you find out you got the First Nations and all. Very interesting, right? So they look, they think. Then when you think about it, like, yeah, they know who to call what and who, and secretly not tell you about it. Yeah, you are the first and the beginners. Like dang on Little Rich said, I am the originator. I am the architect. Hey, who you think invented rock and roll? You know what I'm talking about? But yeah. So okay. Now, indeed, what is called a stateless society in Africa would hardly be classified as such in the West. For the Western definition of a state does not include the requirements of one man as it as its executive head. Um, a state being any collection of people occupying a given territory and living under their own government independently of external control. Okay. And so African democracy originated in chiefless societies. And what is even more significant, democracy reached its highest development here, where the people actually governed themselves without chiefs, where self government was a way of life, and law and order were taken for granted. So that also tells you that, you know, like it's like how Dr. John and Clarke would say, you didn't have a word for jail because nobody had gone to one, and you did build orphanages because nobody had, gone to one, and you didn't throw away, mama and, grandmama and grandpa because, you didn't put them in a home. It's the same thing. That shows a sense of self-governance. You may not have a typical name for it, but it's a way of life. You know what I'm saying? It's a way of life. It's not a theory or philosophy, or it's more than just a philosophy or a way of thinking. It's a way of life. You have to put action into the life. So you're acting on the way. And you live by that way, you know what I'm saying? In that sense. Whereas if you look at, democracy from a Eurocentric point of view, it's always been a theory and thought, and things like that. It's never really, it always sounds good on paper, but in the actual application, it looks horrible. Like I always thought, if you ever read like, you know, Marx and communism sounds good on paper. But if you see the application of it, you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You see Stalin and Mao and things like that, gulags and, and things like that. You be like, hold on here. you know, you know. So, it's a lot of theory and pontificating it, but there's no action. It never becomes a way of life. Sort of like in Godfather Part 3, right? Where he's talking to the dang on Cardinal. Yeah, it should be Cardinal. Yeah, Cardinal, right? And then Cardinal shows him a rock, and then he's like, see, and he takes the rock from the dang on, fountain, and then he smashes the rock on the ground, and he says, "Look, it's dry inside. Looks wet on the outside, but it's dry inside." This is like, man, in a sense, really it's about the Euros, but it's man, it's like, he's had Christ for hundreds of years, yet it still has not penetrated, his heart, in a sense. So it's the same thing, what I'm talking about. Was that an eye? Was that an eye for an eye type of justice? What do you mean by that, South Ahava? I'm gonna need more clarification so I know what I'm addressing. But it's the same, like I said, it was the same, it's sort of like the same thing with democracy in a sense. If you look at like Greece, what was the yeah, it was sort of the place for what they said was democracy, but there was so many what wars amongst themselves, amongst the city states of Greece. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, you know. But here for us, in a sense, these terms, um, or these philosophies is a way of life. It's acting upon that. You know what I'm saying? Oh, like if they steal, they cut off your hand. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We would call that even-handedness. Because sometimes you don't want to have just ice in you. But yeah, we call that even-handedness. Yeah, you still we cut off your hand. We as you can see, like when we deal with the code hammer robbery, there's balance. You know what I'm saying? You do something, yeah, there's cause and effect. You know what I'm saying? But there's a balancing cause and effect into it all. You know what I'm talking about. So that's the main thing. But yeah, you can say an alpha and I, as long as there is balance and there's no um the playing field is level. I just say it like that. The playing field is level. You know, where there is no injustice. But there's even handedness for both parties. You know, so okay. Now, the lineage ties and responsibilities in the age grade or age set system, where the early institutions through which the African Constitution functioned and out of which its democracy was born, it was a network of kinsmen and alleged kinsmen, all of whom descended from the same ancestor or related ancestors might live in the same community or state, but they were often scattered far and near in the separate and independent societies. So here we are dealing with lineage, in stateless societies. So the ancestor from whom they claim descent, always great because of outstanding deed or extraordinary achievements. Um, they generally these generally grew into in magnitude as time and the generations passed, growing out of prairie songs. Each of poets and storytellers gave the imagination full range and romantic glory. Myths were born in this manner, and the later concept of both royalty and divinity gained support from the same source. In um, con- contiguous in independent chiefdoms, the lineage was the powerful factor in providing the basis and incentive for the later formation um, of kingdoms and empires. So, you know, the foundation was basically, or what unified the whole group or community was an ancestor, was lineage, but a common ancestor. For for us, it would probably a good example uh would be Israel, really, where everybody had a common ancestor. Of course, there was different 12 tribes, yes, but they had one common ancestor, which was Israel. And at even at that time, what, they were nomads, so they were stateless. They were basically an example of a stateless society. You know, they had to get the land first, but before that, they didn't have no land, so they were stateless. You know, but they had what? Before they had a king, they had judges and things like that. So they had myths and things, which is synonymous with a lot of African cultures. Another one that is an example, at least from where you have poets and storytellers and things like that. I think of Zulu, Shaka Zulu. You know, Shaka come out, what he got 12 dang on, criers telling of his great deeds. You know what I'm saying? The issue is he got a bunch of kids. But but it's the same thing. He could have been that great ancestor that, talk about it. Everybody could have been sitting from and be like, he did this, he did this, he did that, same thing, in a sense. But just as an example, you know. So okay. Lineage then was the most powerful and effective force for unity and stability in early Africa. And this was so true that a state could be self-governed without the need for any one individual as ruler, chief, or king. You know, so the foundation, for stateless society is lineage. You know, that's the first thing, lineage. Bloodline. And that, because of that that foundation of unity, you didn't need a ruler or chief or king. Like I said, I could say the same thing when it came to, Israel that says, like, we don't need one. you know, you know, the Lord of Horses, our God, and I can. If you ever say King David, with Richard Gere, but we want a king we can see, you know. So why can't we be like other nations? Well, we're not like other nations, Typical stuff, give us something special. Then like we want to be like everybody else, But that was the unifying factor, as you can see, Yeah, there was the physical unifying factor, which was Jacob, Yakub, Israel. But then you had the other unifying factor was Yah and things like that, and that separated them from everybody. Not just that, also because they were the other one was because they ain't got nomads. But yeah, and then you get laughed at. Yeah, y'all got no leg, but you say your God is all great. We get ready over here in Egypt. you know. It's look, these vines look quite nice up in Babylon. You know what I'm talking about? But look at you, dang on Hebrews. You have no land. Look at you wandering around. Y'all don't even know where y'all at. Same thing, but it unified everybody. Okay, so I'm gonna have to read this on another slide because even if I put this on bold, I still can't see it. Okay. The idea of kinship was founded on the sacred, on the local religion, which required two relatives to have a common mythical ancestor. Whether or not it was identified with a totem, the solidarity that this requirement implied was the best guarantee of individual security as long as society maintained its elementary clanic and tribal structure. It diminished when society expanded inordinately under the pressure of productive forces and the division of labor. Talking on forms of increasing complexity, obliging individuals to cooperate in the social labor necessary for development of all. Now that comes from Civilization of Barbarism by Shaking the Deal, right? So, and here you have no people in African history used um, the concept of kinship more effectively than the Lunda in the remarkable expansion of their empire. Now, if you if you remember, and just in case if you don't, uh, I did a segment on the Belgian colonization of the Congo, which I talked about the Lunda people. So the link is in the description of the video of the live video, and we talked about Chibala Lunga and that unifying lineage, right? And the mythos of that said ancestors, and what united them. It was also a marriage that united the Lunda Kingdom, and same thing, right? But here, Chancellor William goes in more in depth on sort of on the structure of the Lunda. So, accordingly, um, instead of first attempting to conquer and annex by force, they would approach independent states and seek to demonstrate from oral history that all of them were merely segments of a common lineage. All brothers, in fact. It appears that the majority of states believed in the principles of a common ancestry and readily became members of the empire. Some required more facts before they were convinced. Still, others were not convinced or preferred to remain separate and independent. These were generally conquered and given a lower status in the nation than those who united voluntarily. So, I would also say, this gives you a blueprint on uh, basically, we just say statesmanship in a sense, where you're doing sort of like an ambassadorial duty of trying to expand the empire through lineage and oratory, because you have to, prove this. They're asking for, okay, some of us we gonna need some more facts. You're gonna have to show us some more facts and just telling us, hey, we are one. No matter what we do, you got to be more to sing a song. You got to see Martin Frank and Beverly. Just give me some more facts. I need something concrete. I need some receipts. Same thing. Yeah, then you do that, and then some are not convinced. And some just want to be separate and independent. And then, hey, if you conquer them, you don't give them the same status as those that united voluntarily. You know what I'm saying? So that teaches you, is like, okay, it's like doing, sort of like missionary work in a sense, uh, but with empire building, you know. So yeah, you're still under the fold, but you got a lower tier of citizenship because you denied me, Peter. But yeah, so that's dealing with. But like I say, you see that, and that works. You're not just saying, hey, yo, get down and lay down. You know what I'm saying? You're actually able, because you got to hold a debate and prove a point. you know So, which shows that you can win someone over with words and things like that. If you can show and prove it, you can win somebody over with words. Yeah, there's charisma and all that, but you you actually have it. You know what I'm saying? And you can show and prove it. And you can win others over to your side. You know. So here we have, Dr. Clarke. We about to get into it. You know what I'm talking about. So that's what we gonna do. Let me. Okay. Gotta make sure.
Where the U.S. is in a position of being world policeman, if you will, how do you see the progress of what is commonly referred to as Pan-Africanism developing into the next century?
I think in the light of the attempt to recolonize Africa and to control the media and the African mind, Pan-Africanism is going to become more essential than ever, and more people are going to understand it. Pan-Africanism is no different from Pan-Europeanism. Pan movements have existed all over the world, but no one gets overly excited about them until we began to produce these movements. I see no solution for African people except some form of Pan-Africanism and African nationalism. I think Africans throughout the whole world will have to come together as African people and march into the arena of power in the world and speak with a single voice. I see no other solution.
You have written extensively on the subject of cultural colonialism versus physical colonialism as it relates to Africa and African peoples around the world. Could you expound on that concept?
I think the best way to understand the subject is to at least talk away from the subject for a minute. Because for the last 500 years, this world has been ruled by European nationalism. And Europe has had one concept. And that concept is European dominance. It would be European dominance under the name of communism or socialism, under the name of fascism or capitalism, under the name of Christianity, but European dominance. And we have to realize that we live in a European conceived intellectual universe. I'm not advocating this for African people. I'm saying that African people need to claim all those things in the world that belongs to them, and that we can do this without destroying another people's culture, destroying another people's country, or taking a people out of history. We can do this without doing to other people all the cruel and tragic things that has been done to us.
What can we do as African Americans to expedite progress towards a better understanding of and mutual cooperation with African peoples worldwide?
We as African Americans are trying to improve the human relationship of African people worldwide, and we're also trying to get the various fragments of African people to understand each other, those in the Caribbean islands, those in South America, and those here in the United States, those in the Pacific, and those in Africa itself. We're trying to get across the point that we were never a minority, and that if you count all of us on the face of the earth, we number over 1 billion people. And once you get 1 billion people together, they're not going to have to worry about who's going to be their allies, so long as they become allies to themselves. They have to expand Pan-Africanism beyond its narrow base to a concept of an African world union.
What is your opinion about present African American leadership in terms of direction, goals, and achievement made over the last 20 or say 30 years?
African Americans, unfortunately and tragically, have more leaders and less leadership than any people in the whole of the African world. And a lot of the people who are pretending leadership are charlatans and pretenders. And yet among them there has emerged some very able men worthy of the mantle of leadership. And because of the pretenders, they've gotten less attention than they deserve. I think our leaders in general misunderstand their mission. If you're the leaders of a people, then you have to get a mandate from the people. And if the people ask you, leader, where are you leading me? You must have a good answer for them. Not only where are you leading me, who are you leading me to, who are you leading me for? The true leader must be a messenger, delivering a message for the people, and not a charlatan imposing a message on the people. And that the leader that ignores this is not worthy of the name leader.
Dr. Clarke, you have extensive.
Okay. So here we have Dr. Clarke, once again, telling you, what makes a leader. And, we're not taking nothing from, no other person in history. Dr. Clarke would say, put them in their rightful place, you know what I'm saying? Um, and whatnot. And that's all that's really being done, because what it's like, at least for the Eurocentric view, it's like, well, you didn't have this, you didn't have democracy and things like that. So, you know, we could do whatever we wanted with you, because, or it was just something that they didn't understand, or they just didn't care. That's in the manual. Even if they have, some body of government in the state, don't care anyway. you know, you know, it's not yours. So yeah, but he also gives you what you need to look for in so-called leaders. You know what I'm saying? So you're not taking uh so you're not being a sucker. Say that. You know, you, you're not getting set up for the judge like Chief said. You know, because there are leaders that will lead you astray. No matter what movement you're in, if you do not ask these vital questions, where are you going? Where are you leading me to? Just think about it. Well, I could point. You know, but um, I could point to that, but nah. Um, like for instance, when you have certain pan movements, one I can totally think of, not just the Pan African movement, which the question should have probably been asked, Marcus, what the books look like on the Black Star Line? Just saying, what work are they really doing, and how much work need to be done on these dang gone boats? Where, you know, what type of training is the nurses corps and the African Legion really getting? Are we really doing logistics? Asking these vital questions. Okay, where are we going? Where are you leading to? And what's the message? Because like he says, leadership should have a message, which seemed like every prophet had a message. If you know, um, the nation wanted to listen to it, if Israel wanted to listen to it, which sometimes they did, it does. Like, look, y'all don't stop. Y'all gonna get hemmed up, you know. Y'all gonna get got by Babylon, man. Y'all ain't gonna be able to get out for a minute. Y'all don't stop doing what y'all doing right now. Y'all gonna get hemmed up by Babylon. I'm just letting y'all know. You know. Yeah, I get you. I go because, but oh, shut up. You know, we gonna do what we want. The Lord knows our heart. Now let's get back to this party. Let's get back to these idols. You know, something like that. You know, but there's a message. You know, there's always be a message that probably compels one to speak on and things like that. But yeah, always ask questions. Just don't blindly follow. You know, can't do that. You can't do that. I know, walk by faith, not by sight, but these are people, But where are you leading me to again? Okay. You were at, where are we going again? Probably asked that if somebody, you were driving somewhere with somebody in the car. Okay, where are we going again? Oh, okay. Same thing. So I got another one. So I'm gonna play that one too. Right here.
A lot has been said about the contributions of Hippocrates. Can you tell us a little bit about Imhotep and some of the institutions of the time?
One of the main reasons we get a lot of nonsense about Hippocrates because we haven't even read what he said. Read what Hippocrates said. He said, I am a child of Imhotep. He was beholden to this African who lived nearly 2,000 years before he was born. He worshiped at the shrine of Imhotep. And Imhotep was the world's first multi-genius. He was a scientist. He was a priest. He was the world's first physician. He gathered the intellects of his day around him that became the embryo of what later would be the great lodge that the Greeks called Luxor. Or the Greeks called Thebes, the Arabs called Luxor, the African called Warat. This would be the world's beginning of higher learning. This is the embryo that's going to go into the making of the university. This man helped set this in motion. Give him his proper place in history. I'm not saying take Hippocrates out of history. I said place him in history in his proper place. I'm not saying take George Washington out of history. I said let's take George Washington out of history and show his relationship with several black people who saved his life. Leave him in history, but show how we related to him.
Homer, Herodotus, and others have written extensively about the wealth and culture of Africa. Why do you think that it is so difficult to find these writings and why they aren't publicized as much as other more Western works?
Because their writings repudiate the concept about the African savage with no culture. Because in Homer, you see mysterious Africans, sometimes 10 feet tall with one eye in the middle. These are stereotypes, but they're complementary stereotypes. In Homer, you see the Greeks. Anytime they're under attack, they would tell their enemy, if you don't leave me alone, I'm going to tell my friends the Ethiopians. That means they had so much respect for the Ethiopians. They knew the Ethiopians could get people off of their back. And they referred to the Ethiopian as the blameless people, the favorites of the gods. In fact, the word Ethiopia itself comes out of Greek mythology. Now, one of the reasons they don't want to recognize Herodotus is because Herodotus is called the father of history. And Herodotus established in his own writings, because he was an eyewitness, the culture of Egypt. He came to Egypt when it was in decline and ruins. And he said that Egypt, under that state, had more to offer than a young and confused Greece trying to learn the rudiments of civilization. Do you think what you're going to buy the Greek stuff and buy that too? You can't buy the Greek myth about the Greek created civilization when the world was here before the Greeks, culture before the Greeks. And the Greeks had no preachable culture, had no fraternities until they came in contact with African secret societies. One admission forces another admission. So that you can't even make the first one, else you have to make several more.
You spoke about religion before and your background as a Baptist. What do you have a religion now, or?
No, I don't need a religion.
Okay,
I need a spiritual belief system
I
as
see.
part of my life.
Okay,
I have that. I'm satisfied with that.
okay.
I can go to any church I feel like.
Hmm.
I was in church last night, and what shocked and disturbed me was the mutilization of the spirituals.
I see.
People got all kind of doodads and fancy. That's not singing.
Hmm.
You sing the words. You put some spirit into it.
Yes.
You don't just lift your voice just to get applause.
Hmm.
You lift your voice because that's the correct way to do it.
Hmm.
And you know it because that's the correct way. Hadn't they ever heard of Mahalia Jackson? I turned to my partner then last night. I said, it's a pity Faith sent us only one Mahalia Jackson.
Hmm. Yes.
Sent us only one Malcolm X.
Hmm.
Only one Du Bois.
Hmm.
If faith sends you somebody of substance, you don't make the best use of it. Faith don't send you another one.
Hmm.
People ask me, so what do you think we'll ever have another Malcolm X? I said, what the hell did you do with the first one? You let the first one be killed right in front of your eyes.
Yes. Hmm. Hmm.
Do you deserve another one?
Right.
Well, you know that's not the giant Clarke, man. Ain't it? Look, he be dropping some dang on mom. But I do feel him with Mahalia Jackson because man, that precious Lord, you know, it's just man. Can't nobody say that song like that. That good. You know, and that man, she has some spirit. Man, I remember one time I was watching a documentary and I was watching Martin Luther King documentary and it had his funeral on there. And then, you know, this was the end. And then they had Mahalia Jackson saying, you know, what's gonna happen? You know, now that the king of you know, and man, I'm a kid, and that woman had me crying. They killed him, man. But she had that kind of spirit, man. But yeah, man, if you don't take care of you, take care of your peoples that was sent. You know, you ain't gonna get no more. You know, you get one and that's it. Until you prove you can act right. You know, but yeah, man. I mean, it's a lot. You know, he what was talking about, like I said, talking about the Greeks, but you know, some of them would admit where they got what they got from, you know. But like, you know, you in the manual, you know, you can't really admit that you got, you know, certain things from, you know, that continent. Mm-mm. We came up with all that on our own. You know, deny. But they said this is mythology. You know, but you say he's the father of history. You know, exactly. a room with G. Yeah, that too, man. But yeah, oh man, that is a lot. And then he says it in his own way. Like he is just, especially when you can tell you ask him a dumb question. Like, I don't need that. Like we said, I was in church last night. Like I was in church last night. And what got me about this damn place is yeah, man. Um, you could say that, about the church, how it killed the spiritual. But if you know the history of the church and things like that, yeah, they were doing that before they even enslaved you. Pretty much. Just saying. you know, they were doing that before. They killed the spirit in themselves, then try to, now they're doing it to you. It's like, hey man, hey, it is what it is. you know, asking when the church was my spirit. Well, oh man, that was one thing that Carter G. Woodson talked about in Miseducation of the Negro. In a sense, how the preacher that didn't have like the education of theology and all of that was just basically filled with, I'm paraphrasing, but just filled with the spirit. He didn't have all that theological education, but he's more in tune with the religion and with the saving of souls, more so than the person that actually probably went to college or seminary school, whatever you want to say. He means it more. You know what I'm saying? you know. Um, Man, they made church a fashion show and a club. Oh, man, it's a rest haven for, well. let's get off of that. Moving on. So, but considering lineage before the rise of kingdoms, and in particular lineage as the governing and organizing force in states without chiefs or kings, where community consensus was the supreme law that anyone could ignore at his peril. You know, so community consensus was the supreme law. And you can ignore that at your peril. If you wanted to. I know, shoot, I was talking, well, Johnny McCall was talking about pan movements. And now I forgot to say it, man. One pan movement that I think about all the time. I think about a lot sometimes is Tecumseh, man. And how he tried to get the Midwest natives on code, and even those in the South, but the Cherokee Choctaw, they weren't going with him. But he spoke of that same message, but they was like, nah, man, we gonna mess with these Americans, man. you know we get benefits, we get subsidies. you know, Things like that, man. It is what it is. We like living in houses, whatever. But that's another one that I think of as well, man. But so if you have a consensus of the community, like we always say black community, but it's like it's an amalgam. You're not really real. You're an amalgam. A combination of ushers my dad left me with. I combine them all into one memory. That's parenthood. it's Steve Martin, white movie. But my dad used to have me watch that movie. So it's the same thing. You don't have a consensus where there is law of the community, and so everybody running around because they don't have no fear of the peril of of the consequences of said law of the community. No, that's not to say that didn't that it wasn't always there, because for some of us who had parents, older or elder parents, they would say, if I did something, my neighbor would whoop my butt, and then they would tell me, then the other neighbor would my butt, then my parents would my butt, and so I didn't do it no more. You had something like that, where there was a consensus of said community. That's an example of such a consensus, you know. But yeah, so clinic organization in that is founded on the taboo of um, incest, marks the beginning of civilization. The human being is no longer a simply biological animal. His sexual relations are henceforth dependent on strict social regulations. You know, so that says a lot. Once you cease to be um, functioning from that animalistic mindset, you see that things are taboo. That you ain't really supposed to be doing that. We make fun of certain peoples that do that, but you know, because it's taboo. Before there was such thing as Christianity, that was taboo among certain cultures. Now we know among the royalty, in a sense, in Egypt, you know, not not there, but still in other places, but at least with them, there was context. There was context, but then but still, it's like you got a side out of like, huh? Something like that. Whatever. So that also comes from civilizational barbarism, right? So the clan is also, and above all, a social organization whose purpose is to meet economic needs and to challenge nature. It is founded on the deliberate choice of a unilateral type of kinship, patrilineal or matrilineal, according to the economic context, of a private or collective type of ownership, of a mode of inheritance, etc. So, also from the so, as you can see, you know, the purpose is to meet economic needs and to challenge nature. You know, um, that's how it was formed. You know, now here, this is Diop giving basically, um, in we just gonna say African uh, look on the anthropological um, creation of clan, for um, the continent, you can say. So, kinship, um, affiliation, inheritance derive essentially from the privileged social situation of the spouse who remains in his or her clan and therefore hosts the other. So when pair bond, which is married pair bond. You know, you know, um, your clan is the host clan. Your clan hosts the other. You know what I'm saying? Um, it's the primary. If that's a better word for you. You know. So let me read this on other screen. So I make sure I got it. Okay. The blood ties remain very strong in the monarchical form of state, and despite the complexity of the social organization and sometimes the size of kingdom, indeed, too many material interests remained attached to the blood ties, and great efforts were made to maintain them at the initial sacred level of the clanic stage. The inheritance of public offices and responsibility reinforced kinship ties. Monarchical Europe of the ancient, because that's how it's actually spelled, regime, um, in pre-colonial Black Africa were in this category. Um, so an example of this is if you ever seen a period C drama or Chinese drama, and there's you have a a family or a clan, and you always have basically the main branch, um, who has a patriarch who's like a prime minister or in a minister position, in the imperial government, right? And then there's always like some son that inherits their title. It's the same thing. You know, um, but it keeps the whole clan together. For the sake of keeping the power of the clan of the family. You know, in such position, so they all can prosper, because they're inheriting this public office, and the responsibility of this kinship, of this blood tie is strictly enforced. You know what I'm saying? In a sense. So that's to me that's an example, or a visual type of example. If you ever seen one. So um, the division of labor uh, and inheritance of public offices in African societies go back to the clanic stage. This very important fact must be considered by the sociologists. The clanic name is also the name of an inherited calling, and the same evolution applies all the more strongly to African societies not using family names. So I would say an example of this uh, is, like we said, Israel with the 12 tribes. Each tribe had a calling. Even in the name, Judah, praise, and Dan, Judge. We did this, study session. Had to learn about the name, figure it out, figure out the calling and things like that. So you figure out a lot. Dan was judges and you know, and whatnot. But you see, that you know a clanic name is an inheriting calling. You know, of what the whole family or clan is called to do. So if you called to do blacksmithing or you know being a warrior clan, that's what we do, son. We go to war. That's just our calling. That's just our purpose as a group, as a family. you know as for me and my house, we should serve the Lord. you know so yeah. Same thing, man. Same thing. Sometimes you gotta know what that calling is so you can give the instructions to your own homestead. Gotta figure that out. That's your calling as a man. To reinforce that calling upon the bloodline and making a blueprint for for that said calling. Some of us um, are meant for different things. I used to liken this for me. It was like I came from a family of singers, and then um, when um, one of our family members, uh, when he was when he was he won an award, and he was shouting out, where we was from, this, and we was like, yeah, and you can hear us up top, we was there, but we was on TV, man, it was like, oh man, they go cuz, man, he repping, he repping where we from, man, but that united all of us, and it still do, man, and things like that. You have that in, and to me, it's like, um, some families, are magicians. That's all they do. You know what I'm saying? That's what they call to do. You know what I'm saying? But it you just gotta follow, stay on the path. Go to child. I give you this advice. Stay on the path. you know. So okay, the Mousy Kingdom, which we're going to get into. I give you a little bit. As you can see, it's 1500 1895. The Mossy kingdoms, is basically in Burkina Faso. It's one of the basically um, majority ethnicities in Burkina Faso. One thing about them, man, when I think of Mossy, I think of you know horsemanship, horse lords and whatnot. If you ever seen pictures of, they look like, knights, got they, horses padded in armor and things like that, and they're formidable. They're formidable warriors, it says. But yeah, man, that's one thing if you don't know much about the Mozzie, you know what I'm talking about. But they were able to, go against, or hold their ground against, the likes of Mali and Songhai. They weren't scared of them. They can hold their own. They ain't as big, but they can hold their own. you know. So just in case if you didn't know. Okay, so the Masi is a constitutional monarchy. The emperor, the Moranaba, comes by heredity from the family of the previous Moranaba, 11th century probably. But his nomination is not automatic. He is chosen by an electoral college of four dignitaries, presided over by the prime minister, um, the Togonaba. As in Ethiopia, he is actually invested with power by the latter, who, however, is not a Nakomse nobleman, but comes from an ordinary family and who is, in reality, the representative of the people, of all free men, all citizens who const- constitute the mostly nation. So that gives you an idea of kingship, at least uh, kingship in the eyes of um, African people. I schooled you on what and chief of schooled you on whatever. Um, you know, but in order for you to understand, who we're talking about, I have to say it. You know, um, that gives you an idea. That the king is the representative of the people. You know what I'm saying? And all of all free men and all the citizens who constitute within the nation. Whereas with the Eurocentric view, it's always, the king is the anointed by God and he can do no wrong. Basically, he can do whatever he wants. He's never the representative of people. He's the representative of himself, and usually all the all the nobles around him, but never really the people. Even though they talk about it, it's just in name only. He is the sovereign of the people, but he's not the representative. In the sense, he's supposed to be the representative of Earth, depending on the culture. But if you look at, like I say, if you look at the history of certain cultures, can you really say that they were the representative of the people? In the sense, even if you went, didn't go out of Africa and you just went in, not all of them were representative of people. Some of them, had vain and selfish and tyrannical, viewpoints and actions. So, you know, you don't always have to go out, go out of Africa. You can live within as well. Something that's what it takes to look, at what you got wrong. So things like that. So okay, that I know that is very small. Even like I say, it's bolden, but okay. So that is the spirit. That is the spirit of this Constitution. In order to comprehend its originality, we would have to imagine at midpoint of the Middle Ages, 1352, 53, the time of Ibn Battuta. Okay, if you don't know who Ibn Battuta is, he was a scholar and historical chronicler who went, in Africa and in India and places like that. For me, it was how I find out that through Ibn Battuta that there was Ethiopians in India, because he went there, and whatnot. So that's who he is. Just in case we don't know. So anyway, Ibn Battuta's voyage to the Sudan and the 100 Years Wars, not just some provincial lore, but the King France or of England giving a share of his power, um, with a voice in decision to the rural serfs bound to the soil, the free peasants, the town guildsmen, the merchants, and beyond all that, imagine the existence of a tradition according to which the king, within the framework of an already constitutional monarchy, cannot reign, cannot oh, I wrote that twice. Can I have moral and political authority in the eyes of the people, unless he is invested by Bergios, who is also chosen by from among one or a few traditional determined families. Neither the bourgeoisie nor the peasantry of the West would then have had the revolutionary virulence that once imbued them. In the course of the Western European history would probably have been different. Like that was a whole, that was like a whole bomb. But he's making his, you understand, and prinkle on it. But with these books, it's like Shake is it's like dropping. It's like he's dropping ether on a ether. Well, he's dropping ether and what's another good diss track? Um, Shots fired, or the bridge is over. For those of us, that's all to be. Shots fired. The bridge is over. You know, um, on on you know certain uh scholars or or your centralized discipline that counts you out, and here you are stating your case on, you say I don't have all these things, but look at what I have, and then let's see, if you didn't have the, had what I had, you would have went a totally different route. Or if you had what I had, you would have still, you also would have, went even probably even changed your own history, something like that. But he does it in a way where it's like, boom, it's like bang, Um, so you sort of have to you sort of have to put that in a little bit of context. But what's also good is that he's giving anthropology from your point of view, because anthropology is it's not which is anthropology is the study of man. So if you're the first one, it's the study of you. but 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 in your sense of but in your centric context, it sort of wouldn't be what it says. It'd be like, okay, we were in Africa, then we got ourselves out, and now here we are. Western civilization. Skip the other 10,000 years, whatever, 20,000 years. They don't count. Here. you know. And it all started with the Trojan War, something like that, or the Iliad, whatever, you know. So just keep that in mind, man. So, okay, the Kayor Kingdom, 1549 through 1879. Shoot, with the Mossy, like I say, it was in Burkina Faso. One guy that I think of when I think of Burkina Faso, Thomas Sankara, man. But with the Kayor Kingdom, which is in Senegal, we already, and who's from Senegal? Sheikh Diop, or President Senegal, at least most of Senegal. And, they were part of the Wolof Kingdom, which I sort of talked about the Wolof a little bit, warlike, one of the, major people or ethnicities that the Spanish used to take, and brought them over here, in the islands, you know, but they were too warlike and had too many insurrections. Yeah, they got busy, but but the Kayor people was a part of the Wolof, and then they went independent and remained so, until the French. Both of these kingdoms, remained independent until the French came. That's why they speak French today, But at least you could say, at least like with, at least they let's see, make sure. Yeah, at least they held on to independence till you got out of slavery. If you look, look, we're past Reconstruction. We all can do it a little bit, a little bit better, in a sense, So they all pretty much remain independent for a while, But yeah, man. So, but so the Constitution, Kayor, was therefore in effect until 1870. This fact shows that African political constitutions had no appreciably changed with time. Had not appreciably changed with time. Only in the cases where the royal branch became Islamized, do we see certain transformations. That was the case of Ghana, Mali, and Songhai. So, like, to me, that's a bar. You know what I'm saying? Where these these places were had constitutions and things like that, but only till you invite Islam did they become what they became. Then the transformation comes, and then he gives what Ghana, Mali, and Songhai. You know what I'm saying? Very interesting. But if we went the if we went the John Henry Clarke route, like he would say, you got to be wary of Arabism, and I think that it's Islamized of these kingdoms also came sort of with maybe a little to a lot of Arabism. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with the East, came with Arabism. Look at the civil wars and whatnot. But yeah, man. So like he said, he warned you, about Arabism, and that's even a detriment, and Chief was just talking about, yesterday about, things of that nature in a sense, let's talk about that, how the prophet called us raisin heads and whatnot, things like that, man. Let's get deeper into it, what I'm saying? But yeah, man. That's probably part of that new conversation, Chief used to talk about, man. Let's talk about that. But yeah, man. So here we are again. We gonna play this.
All right. Go ahead.
I dare to ask, what are you doing with your energy? What are you doing with your time and your resources?
All right.
What are other people doing? Why do other people with less time and less resources achieving more than you? You got 100 times more than the Japanese ever had.
All right.
You got more land than they've ever seen.
All right.
You got a greater potential than they ever had. They don't have enough land to grow enough vegetables. And yet they're almost self-sustained in food. You got all the land available to you. And yet you buy most of your food from other people and lose most of the land through taxation that you could pay. You lost something. And when a people lose this thing, a container that I call nation, and when you lose nation, you lose more than land.
All right.
You use a concept of the mind.
All right.
Why do people structure something away from their historical geography that you cannot do? Why then is it East Indian must come and run a store in your neighborhood and a Korean?
All right.
And you complain about a job when you should own the store and the real estate. And if he owns the store, he should be renting from you.
All right. There you go. There you go.
All ethnic groups control at least the real estate in their neighborhood.
All right.
You don't own the real estate in your neighborhood, and there was a time you could have bought up every boarded up house.
All right.
All they wanted you to do is to fix them up and put them back on the tax roll. And you didn't do it. Why can't you see yourself as the managers of great wealth?
All right. All right.
Until you manage the wealth-producing resources of your neighborhood, or your nation, you are not free.
All right.
When you are dependent on your former colonial master or your former slave master for the safety pin that holds your child's diaper together, you are not free.
All right.
To be a slave is not necessarily to be hungry.
All right.
A lot of people are hungry and they are not slaves.
All right.
To be a slave is not necessary to work hard.
All right.
A lot of people work hard and they are not slaves. To be a slave is not to be able to determine your own destiny.
All right.
Until you can close a door or close a community and say who goes here and on what terms, you have no sovereignty and you have no true freedom.
All right.
Now, what have you done with your time since we retreated from the golden age of nationalism in the 19th century? Let's look at that golden age of 19th century. Why did we do so much when we had nothing, not even basic freedom?
All right.
And why are we doing so less? Now we got all kind of freedom. We get lost in it.
All right.
We're killing each other. Where do we find all these guns? We don't make any of them. Where are we finding all this dope? We don't refine any of it. We don't own any of the equipment that takes the substance and makes it into dope. We don't control the borders that let it into the country. Why so easy to find? Because they control your mind, they control your body.
All right.
Give you the illusion. In the 19th century, we didn't think of ourselves as Caribbean people, African American people, and African people. All of us were African people.
All right. There you go. All right.
We didn't have our nose in the air thinking England was our motherland.
All right.
You fool, how can your slave master's country be your motherland?
All right.
We didn't think that way.
No.
All of us knew that we had one motherland, it was Africa. And we reached out to each other. We joined each other's freedom movement. We pastored in each other's church. We realized there's no solution until there's a solution for all of us. But the historical spot of our beginning was Africa.
All right.
We come to the 20th century. We do not study enough history of other people to understand how they succeeded.
All right.
The Japanese were put in concentration camps in the Second World War. They came out of concentration camps. They got all their property back. They got money, they got reparations. Not one march, not one leaflet, not one fist in the air. And all you know is you ain't got nothing.
All right. There you go. Talk to us.
What did they do?
All right.
In the so-called Holocaust, Jews got billions of dollars. Even the money to lay the basis for a piece of stolen property they called Israel. A land that never belonged to the Europeans.
All right.
But homeland. Homeland for who? If God promised anybody a homeland, they created the God that promised them the homeland and don't even worship that God anymore. God gave them some land.
God gave some other people some land according to their folklore.
All right.
Didn't give it to a European. The European claimed he belatedly came converted to the faith because he didn't want to get in the war between the Christians and the Arabs. So he chose another option. Then he chose the tradition that went with it. He don't relate to Jacob and Isaac and all those people. He was happy in Europe. They started kicking his butt. Then he said he wants a homeland. When they was financing Napoleon's army, Napoleon wanted to give him Palestine. You can have it, he said. They said, who wants to see your sand? Now, why other people are successful while you fail? Because you lost an essential ingredient.
All right.
An East Indian comes here with a concept of having come from a nation.
Right. There you go.
He has in his mind the formation of a geographical piece of land called a nation.
All right.
In this nation,
All right.
he has judges, juries,
All right.
counselors, good men, bad men.
All right.
Put it all together, it spells nation.
All right.
The concept of nation has been wiped from your mind. You don't know how Africans controlled nations before they took that out of your mind. You will not read your history.
All right.
You read Europeans' interpretation of your history, which takes you out of history. Why did the Japanese succeed? 2 atomic bombs, defeat in war. Now, the people who defeated them are begging them for commercial space in the world. What did the Japanese refuse to let people take away from them?
All right.
The concept of nation in the concept of God as they conceive God to be.
All right.
So yeah, man, I really can't. I can't. I can't say that better than he can, But yeah, man. If you look at what some of what he was talking about was, the internment camps that were here. Manzanar is one of them. And yeah, and then he also talked about the Holocaust and how hey they was able to give us money, man. You know what I'm saying? But what's interesting about that? At least what I've been reading, because I've been reading. So what's interesting is the same thing happened to the Sephardim and in Spain, and they didn't get none. But it's very interesting to me. But the same thing happened to them. They ain't get nobody. But yeah, man. Or the Sephardi, But yeah. But yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, he talked about the Japanese. That's true. They survived 2 atomic bombs. They lost, and they were fierce. They were, a lot of them, they didn't want to surrender. Some of them didn't want to surrender. They was, but kamikaze, oh man, the kamikazes and all of that. And oh my goodness, man. And then what happened? Well, one thing, is that they controlled the education and they wrote their own narrative. And yeah, also they also fought for they also made what they were doing popular culture, which is like anime and manga and things like that. Since Dragon Ball, perhaps, they made what they were doing trend setting. I'll also say same thing with India with Bollywood, man. I mean, the whole musical movie was a American thing, Fred Astaire and I think it's Ginger Rogers, Fred Astaire, and yeah, right, it should be. Is it Ginger Rogers? Well, it don't matter, But all the musicals America had, but look at what they are doing. They making musicals hot. They putting videos in dang on movies. It's like they put videos in movies, but they put their own cultural context in the movie, The Japanese and Canada also got reparations for mistreatment and stolen property land. Oh, well, see, I didn't know they were up there that far. must be must be in Vancouver somewhere west, But yeah, that's very interesting. I did not know that. Sorry, I be leaving you Canadians out. My bad. Redheaded stepchild, huh? I'm sorry. Apologies. But yeah, man. But hey, that I'm glad you said something about that. But you know what? That's also telling. But yeah. But also, something else is that they didn't, for a very long time, the Japanese also didn't have a standard military. Oh, yeah, they can have one. They're just not able to get one in a sense. Like 2 or 3 years ago, they were actually able to now have a standard military. Yeah, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Now the question is, how are you going to rebuild a military, or a standing army or military forces? Because all they had was a defense force. So now it's like, okay, how are you going to build a military, and you have an aging population, and the birth rate ain't adding up. You know what I'm saying? How does that look? You know what I'm talking about? But yeah, it was yeah. See, yeah. Migrations. Migrations. You know what they. Sometimes you know what they are. It's like only San Francisco. We already know who's there. New York. We know who's there too. They. you know. But yeah, migrations, man. I mean, it's very interesting where people go. In a sense, or where they are densely populated at. It's very interesting. But yeah, man, but yeah, they got a lot out with doing a little out of a lot. Well, in a sense, but not doing what you have to do. You have to go through Phillips and something just to get something done, and even then, you're probably doing it for somebody else, and that's what's going on right now. Never ends, but it's just still there. But yeah, man. So okay, so in chiefless states, the function of the elders was wholly advisory. For this reason, they rarely ever met as a council. A council might be called by the senior elder in case of extreme emergency. So that just shows you, in a constitutional state, in a sense, what the elders did. They were advisors, and they didn't meet much. Now you can see where you get wrong. You got a lot of elders meeting a lot and not getting nothing done. Shoot, you even got if you look at the body of government, there's a lot of meetings, but ain't nothing getting done. Nothing solid, concrete is getting done. When you think about, at least in my mind, for some particular reason, I always felt like the State of the Union address should be like like a business thing, like, okay, this one was, 4 years ago, but now we're projected to go here. And all we need to do is this, doing economics and stuff like that, showing, okay, with this law and that, we'll have this dedicated to this, these subsidies will go deep, it'd be a lot of talking and charts and things like that. PowerPoints, death by PowerPoint. Not all this talking and then you stand up and clap, or one side stands up and clap, both sides stands up and clap. But nothing is really said, nothing is really done, and then you have all these people that ain't even advising. You got a lot of elders just talking and not advising, and not meeting for an emergencies. They just mean just to be meeting. So you see what can be fixed and acted upon, It should be like, what elder, that's I would say stubborn and honorable, like, I ain't mean all you for what? But yeah, like, with, got the attitude of an old driver. I ain't doing all of that. I'm gonna say what I want to say, and then that's it. But I ain't mean all y'all. But yeah, man, So the constitutional theory and principles here are especially significant because of the important form they took in all African societies in every part of the continent, as they evolved from societies without chiefs to centralized states under chiefs, kings, and emperors. In this continent-wide constitutional development, the chief or king became the mouthpiece of the people and the instrument for carrying out their will. See that? The mouthpiece. Like it goes back to being that representative, and you being the servant of the will of the people. Not just yourself. You know. What happened to a G? You know what happened to it. The world is mine. Everything. Even my woman. Nino ain't about you, man. CMB, man. We all we got. you know. We built it. You didn't build this by yourself. So same thing, man. You're your servant, of the will of the people. You're the mouthpiece, of many voices that can't speak out louder than you. In a sense, Okay. It was therefore in the societies without chiefs or kings where African democracy was born, and where the concept that the people are sovereign sovereign was as natural as breathing. And this is why in traditional Africa, the rights of the individual never came before the rights of the community. Individual freedom was unlimited until it clashed with the interests or welfare of the community. This is also why the evolution to a highly centralized state still found the king under communal law, not above it, and definitely unable to do as he pleased. So you see the difference between a Eurocentral monarchy and mainly an African one in a sense. You couldn't do as you please. You couldn't do. King is you. But with the Eurocentric perspective, it's always, at least it's projected as a theory. King doesn't do everything he wants to do. It's like, yeah, that's a theory, but then you look at history and you got all these kings doing whatever they want. What it says. Who are they? Who are they speaking for? You know what I'm saying? And then that's probably why you get insurrections and revolutions and stuff, because you didn't know the will of the people. French Revolution, American Revolution. You know what I'm saying? Um, what's another one? Bolshevik Revolution. See, um, um, well, nah, I can't count that one. Um, let's see. Can we get? I'll throw in Protestant Reformation. That'll be fine. So yeah. Okay. Here's a little bit of fundamental rights of African people. It's in Structure and Black Civilization. I just thought it'd be good to at least see them. Um, the people. Well, you know, people are the first and final source of all power. The rights of the community of people are and of right out to be superior to those of any individual, including chiefs, kings. The will of the people is the supreme law. Chiefs and kings are under the law, not above it. You know, but it's superior than any individual. Even the average individual. We put in your situation, we put a lot of emphasis on the individual. you know, but yeah, kings, chiefs, and elders are leader. Dang, well, well, leaders, not rulers. They are the elected representative of the people and the instruments for executing their will. Government and people are one and the same. The family is recognized as the primary social, judicial, economic, and political unity in the society. The family council may function as a court empowered to try all internal, non-serious matters involving only members of the extended family group. So, that just message. So, your family should be, basically its own government. you know, judicial, legislative, and executive. That's all. Three branches. Bam. Yep. See, still number six. Okay. Oh, here I am about to read them off, and I ain't changed the slide. Okay. So, um, the the elder of each extended family or clan is its chosen representative on the council. Decisions in council are made by the elders. The chief or king must remain silent. Even when the council decision is announced, it is through a speaker linguist decrees or laws are issued in the same manner to assure that the voice of the chief or king is the voice of the manner to assure that the voice of the chief or king is the voice of the people. This is an example of provision that had wide variations. The land belongs to no one. It is God's gift to mankind for use and as a sacred heritage transmitted by our forefathers as a bond between the living and the dead to be held in trust by each generation for the unborn who will follow, and thus to the last generation. All monies, gifts, taxes, and other forms of donations to chief or king still belong to the people for relief or aid to individuals in times of need. Every member of the state has the right of appeal from a lower court to a higher court. In some states, appeals could be taken even from the king's court to the mother of the nation. Usually, when you mean mother of the nation, it could mean the queen or the queen dowager. But yeah. But let me change the slide again. So now, each family therefore has the right to land free of charge, sufficient in acreage for its economic well-being, for the right to the opportunity and means to make a living is the right to live. Fines for offenses against an individual went to the victim, not the court. So child support should be going to the kids, to the child, not to the court, and not well. Just saying, use that as an example. It's called child support. So I was, so well. That's the victim, goes to the victim. Well, at least put it in a trust, some, but yeah. uh, Royalty, in African terms, means royal worth, the highest in character, wisdoms, sense of justice, and courage. See, um, that's what makes you royal. So remember, I would say message, royalty just not means bloodline, but it means, your royal worth, you have the highest character, wisdom, sense of justice, and courage. It's like, Dr. John was, when he was talking about the Ethiopians being the blameless people, that's royalty, favored by the God. That's royal, that's royalty in the sense, the trouble of one is the trouble of all. No one may go and want while others have anything to give. So the community as a whole is conceived of as one family. Opposition being conducted by leaders of various factions. In warfare, the object is not to kill the enemy, but to overcome him with fear, if possible, such as screaming, war cries, loud noise, hideous mass faces, etc. Where killing is unavoidable, it must be kept at a minimum. In case of defeat, there must be some kind of rules to enable the enemy to retire in honor. An example of this, if you remember Roots, when Kuntha was going on becoming a man, and they was talking about, when you go to war, you do not surround your enemy. You leave away from him to, retreat, because that's the honorable thing to do. So you see, um, a way of this is a way of life, a way of warfare. you know. So yeah, man. Um, got that. So okay, these constitutional principles and practices were held onto and carried by the migrating blacks to every part of the African continent. This fact is one of the most remarkable parts of the black man's story. Most remarkable because even those societies that sank to barbarian held on, or barbarianism held on to the fundamental age, the fundamentals, age after age, as though they were clutching the last threads of life itself. Even in Egypt, where the Asian and European impact was greatest, African constitutionalism could not be completely blotted out. And even, you have Dr. John, Dr. John telling you, or reciting, that even, Egypt at his worst state is better than the confused Europe. you know. But yeah, man. I'm talking about that. That just goes to show you, shows you a lot. like I say, it's a lot to take in, but it's also a lot to think on. You have to see yourself as the state, and not or your family as a corporate entity and a government and things like that. You know, um, and you are its representative, and you are its mouthpiece. You know, and things like that. You act on the will of the people or of the family. You know, so yeah, man, it can get deep. You know, it can get deep, but it also tells you, you know, what to do. It gives you a blueprint on what to do. You know what I'm saying? Or what was lost, you can get it back now because the work's already pretty much been done. You know, all this there now. You know, in a sense, it's just regurgitated information, but it's already been done. The great ones already did it for you. I mean, because I may not get another another John Henry Clarke or Chancellor Williams or Carter G. Wilson or Asa Hilliard, Dr. Ben, and Chancellor. But that's all right. They already did the work. Now you know what to do and sort of how to move forward. You know what I'm saying? You know, and things like that. You know. So yeah, man. So here we go again.
Individual lives, when they spell it out. When I went to the first wage, when everybody is a part of everything. When each time the widow moans, women of her age group moans with her. When they dance out the life of the deceased. And at the funeral, they walk through the neighborhood with big sheets and people throwing money on the sheets. All this is collected, given to the elders, and she spends 6 weeks at the home of the elders. She comes home, and now I knew where the custom came from. They've taken all the furniture out of the house, washed everything. She's not moved out of her house. They've taken care of the children during her absence. They give her new clothes. She must never wear any clothes she wore while her husband was alive. And they're singing, as long as there's clothes among your people, you have clothes. They present great bodies of food, platters of food, and each lady with a separate dish, quantity, and she have to taste each one. As long as there's food among your people, you have food. I said, this is Social Security built into a society. How dare you call these people uncivilized? Nobody's going to a relief bureau. She's going to her own people. She's not getting out of her house. She's not evicted. Cousins, uncles, all gather, make sure she's taken care of. So many uncles take care of the school fees for the children, so many does that. And the brother that's left is responsible for locating her a new husband, or taking her into his household as one of his wives. I don't care how they sound to you, but at least you got one. You haven't got one. Society has made provisions for her never to be alone. Now you can understand why there was no prostitution in these societies until the foreigners came. When you obey the custom that you made, when you didn't have a word for jail, because you took care of these things within the structure of the family, but you became addicted to foreign concepts, and you lost the most important thing a people must have, the concept of the state.
All right.
And when you lose the physical state, you must never lose the mental state that you carry in your mind.
All right.
And when they take you away from the physical state, you can recreate the state away from home. What are the East Indians doing building stores in your neighborhood? They're doing what you're supposed to do. They're building the structure of the state. They're building in your neighborhood because they can get away with building in your neighborhood because you are not doing it. There's an opportunity here that you're not taking advantage of. You are not understanding the nature of your own culture. Now let's deal with that other march and something that went unnoticed. The Eastern Parkway March
All right.
that they've been trying to kill for years.
All right.
They don't want it, period.
All right.
They moved the island, you've been to Harlem lately. They moved that island out of the middle of Lenox Avenue. They want to make Lenox Avenue broad enough for that. Then they're going to suggest, why not have it in Harlem, where it started? Lenox Avenue still is not broad, even with the island gone, not broad enough for that march. And it shouldn't be there anyway.
All right. There you go.
They don't want you to celebrate culture if indeed that's what you are doing.
All right.
Because if you understand Caribbean culture, a few people do, Caribbean culture is not sexual gyrations down the street. Caribbean culture is heroic and beautiful. It's a long struggle. If you had a parade with emphasis on true Caribbean culture, the parade would last 1 year and that would be the end of it. Because you would tell of struggle, you would tell of Babis revolt, you would tell of Kojo, you would tell of Kojo's sister, Granny Nanny, you would tell of Mary Seacole, who came ahead of Florence Nightingale. You'd have a float for her. You would tell of the revolt that followed the facsimile emancipation, because emancipation in the Caribbean island was a fraud and a fakery. And by the time they got boasting about the fraud and the fakery, they awakened to discover that, hell, they were still slaves. They were still on the same plantation. Now they had to take care of the clothing, the housing. They still had to work for a pittance, and there was no other place to work. But the Caribbean free man called their attention to this. And set in motion, especially in Jamaica, the Morat Bay Revolt 1865. When the beginning of the emancipation was 30 years before, then what are they fighting for in 1865? They're fighting for the fact that they realized the emancipation was a fraud. God, look at all the great culture you have. And one of the main reasons that culture succeeded in being the basis of the revolt, and why the revolts were so successful, they had an African culture continuity.
All right.
Because they didn't break them up as ruthless they broke us up here in the United States. They didn't outlaw the drum as ruthless they outlawed our drum. They didn't outlaw the African language. They could speak to each other in a manner that their master could not understand. He said, oh, that's just gibberish, you know. It wasn't gibberish. It's the African language.
All right.
When Toussaint Louverture, who needs re-evaluation because if it was today he'd be a middle-class cop-out, Dessalines was the real hero of the Haitian Revolution. But after they kidnapped Toussaint, a man who was streetwise for his day, Christophe, went to see Napoleon's cousin, Clarke. Toussaint was naive enough to go with one coachman and got kidnapped. Streetwise Christophe marched a company of soldiers in Leclerc's living room, surrounding him on every side. He marched up to the Frenchman and say, Monsieur Leclerc, what do you want? He said, surrender the island. He spoke to Leclerc's servant in an African language. The servant was a captain in the Haitian army and a spy in Leclerc's household. He gave the spy an order. Give the order, burn Cape Haitian, burn the city down.
All right.
He started to burn and the French started retreating to the hills. And the Africans just beat those African drums, and each time they come close to the drum would retreat. These Frenchmen went stark, raving mad without firing a shot. African culture
All right.
defeated them.
All right.
You can't use it unless you can preserve it.
All right. There you go.
So when you come to Eastern Parkway, what you are seeing is a grand and colorful show, but not Caribbean culture. You're seeing a great Caribbean show.
All right. All right.
If it was about Caribbean culture, it would be about Granny Nanny. They tell so many lies about Granny Nanny, it's hard to get to the truth.
All right.
They said people shoot a bullet at her and she would turn against the bullet and the wind from her behind would throw the bullet right back in the face of the shooter and kill it. But she was a great strategist, far
Well, he said a lot, man. Like I said, man, he said a lot, but yeah, man, I mean, if you want to look at the concept of nation and things like that, you have to put it in context, and but he was right about them parades, because I may not know not a lot about Canada, but I do know y'all Caribbean parade be going down. It goes down. But that should not be the basis of Caribbean culture, man. Caribbean Carnival should not be the basis of man. But you got you. I mean, so much. So many people. CLI James and I mean, just a bunch of people, bunch of them, man. You know what I'm talking about? Um, that you can have floats and and those that we know about like Marcus Garvey and things like that. But I mean, just a bunch of people. Like, that should be the focus of Caribbean culture. You know what I'm saying? That you don't know about. Nobody else does that when they put on parades. just saying, but I mean, but it ain't. You know, but it like I say, it was a lot. That like I say, he be dropping bars, man. You just gotta listen, but he be dropping bars, and he don't care. He be dropping bars, man. Now those are facts, man. No, those are facts. But yeah. So I mean, that's why you gotta leave. Leave them at the end, man, because they just be dropping so much knowledge, man. At least for me, they do. You know what I'm talking about. So yeah, man. I'm done. Join us next strong. It wasn't always consumerism changes everything. Yeah, if you ran them though, it's more than just consumerism. Could be because you don't run them, and then it becomes about consumerism. But it wasn't always that way. Let me think. Yeah. I'm just thinking about the one parade we got, Bud Billiken. I guess. I quit going after after amount of time. But yeah, man. But join us next strong. And we will be talking. It's going to be a two-parter because I know it's going to be long. And we will be talking about education. Sometimes I had to leave some stuff out just because it got into education. It's like, that's why education is going to be it's going to be a two-parter because it's probably a lot we can talk about with it, and we're going to keep on going with it, man. We're going to keep on going with it, and we're going to keep tomorrow, got a new fellowship. We got midday affirmative. You know what I'm talking about? We have, Chief Yuya on all digital media platforms because homie be dropping songs now like crazy, Now we got Man You Made It. When I first heard Man You Made It, I was like, man, you know what's neat? You know what this needs? This needs China Hansu, and I'm gonna start Keep Us Free. And I got what I wanted. Oh man, but yeah, man, and the beat, I like the beat. I really like the beat, So yeah, so check it out, man. And like I say, man, we still growing and going strong. You know what I'm talking about? So hit the like button. Like, share, subscribe. Join, apply. Our new blog. Steadily going, and I don't know if I'm forgetting anything. Hope I'm not. I shouldn't be. But yeah, but give thanks, everybody. Appreciate y'all, coming out. And we will see, look, like I said, we're going to see next strong, and we're going to talk about part 1 of education. So yeah, give thanks and peace.